All right, what's going on, boys and girls? So we're going to be looking at this particular topic, and I am not doing a deep dive on how to choose your OS. That is not my place to do. What this video is about is having people understand on how to make informed decisions about your tech. Understand what goes into something, what you're giving up, what you're not, because everything, Windows, Linux, macOS, there's a certain pro con to everything. So Windows, let's look at the pros. If you're a gamer, probably 90% of your games are going to work. There's going to be that 10% that don't. I have 858 games on Steam right now, and probably about 10-15% of them don't work just because age, etc. If Windows, you have a lot of legacy applications that will only work in Windows, stick with them if that's what you need. Windows has its place. Do I believe it's the best OS? No. But for some people it is, and that's fine. You can talk about, a lot of people talk about the developer tools that are available on Windows. If you're a developer, maybe Windows is the better option for some people. It all depends. You have to look at your use case. If you're just an everyday user, I'm not gonna lie, most everyday generic mom and pop kind of users really don't fucking care about the underlying pinnings of shit. All they're gonna care about is whether or not they can email, communicate with friends, family, etc. They tend to view computers as communication tools and as a tool to get something done. That is all they view them as. So let's talk macOS. If you are a content creator, the fine tuning that Apple does to the software that they develop, not necessarily third party, but the software they develop is fine tuned for the hardware and the version of the OS that hardware supports. And they are bar none above everybody else on it. I'm speaking from experience. I had a 2011 MacBook Pro that I used, and I had just as many applications open on that machine as I would on my gaming machine that runs Linux, and it ran smooth as silk. When you do a 3-finger swipe up and you get that expose mode of all your open applications, and you have 10 or 15 of them, and these are not like light applications. These are, iMovie, GarageBand. These are not light applications, Darktable, etc. And it just smooth 60 frames a second on that type of animation. It is hard to say that those are bad applications and badly designed stuff. Now, there are other things that I don't like about macOS specifically. Besides that vertical integration, though, if you're an iPhone user or an iPad user, that vertical integration is fucking amazing. Because it just, I hate the term seamless, but no hassle kind of work as far as it is to use all these features and functions. That is such a key thing. Linux. So I'm a Linux guy. I'll be the first to admit I am totally biased. It's my preferred platform. But what it boils down to for me is not that it's free, not that I can check source code or any of the other stuff. It's the tool that allows me to get up and running without with the least amount of headaches. I don't spend all day updating it like I do on a fresh install Windows. I don't spend hours trying to de-bloat a system, quote unquote, and stop it from, phoning home and all the stupid other stuff. It just gets out of my way so I can use the machine as a tool. And when the machine that I need is being viewed and used as simply a tool, ancillary things like that it can do, awesome, but its primary focus is what I'm concerned about. And so I have a machine that I do all my editing on. That particular machine can game, but that's a ancillary side effect of being a editing rig. So I'm not you viewing it as specifically just for gaming. It's can game, sweet, but I'm not using it specifically for gaming. And that to me is a time saver. And a time saver for me is I value my time. I've gotten to the point where I don't want to fight with technology anymore as far as getting stuff to work, etc. I don't mind fixing my own problems to an extent, but sometimes the best solution is just to nuke and pave. And Linux is like a 20-minute OS setup for most flavors of it. And that to me means way more time saving than anything else that I can do sometimes with Windows or Mac OS. And I'm fine with that. And the thing with me and why I'm a little bit different than most other users is all my applications are for the most part cross-platform. So Mac, Windows, and Linux. So I'm like a mom and pop user. Everything under the sun doesn't matter because the underlying OS really doesn't matter. Like I don't care about the inner workings. It's can I open a store? Can I open a software center and just download shit? And that's where I care about. So let's quickly talk about the cons with the three major platforms. So Windows and its update mechanism not great. A lot of restarts, a lot of privacy stuff that's sent back, and people talk about, oh well, privacy's dead, etc. You do not control your system as much as you think you do, and that is a problem with Windows. You are giving example, anything you type on your keyboard gets sent back to Microsoft. That is, 10 years ago, that was called the keylogger. That was considered bad. Now it's considered a quality of life improvement stat. So there are those things to keep in mind. Then you have other things that Windows just it likes to pull down random shit on its updates. Fucking the Edge roll has been goddamn awful. Like, cool, you switched to Chromium based browser. Now you're force feeding it with giant banner ads basically to say boot me as far as Edge. Not the way to do it. Microsoft just does a lot of stuff with Windows 10 in a shit way and not in a good user experience kind of way. The Microsoft Store got awful. The fact that they're pushing Microsoft accounts if you are installing Windows, and they highly force you to go online and create an account. And the only way to kind of nix that is to not connect to the internet while you're installing Windows, which is not something most people are going to do. So then you have random Microsoft account that you might never use. Sweet. Yay. More ads, more advertising. Speaking of ads and advertising, they're getting really pushy with some of the ads, and that is troubling. I don't like seeing ads in my OS. I see it enough in Android. Thanks. As far as macOS, one of the cons is also its pro. It's the Apple vetted stuff. As someone who's used a Mac as my primary machine for most of this COVID shit, it boils down to really, I'm not a fan of how they implement and try to keep the user away from making the choices that they decide to make. Example, download a DMG that is not verified. Now, yeah, you can go to the command line and force verify it and make it kind of do its own thing. Now, I can only speak up to High Sierra because that was the last officially supported OS on the machine I ran. So up to Catalina could be different. Big Sur, those could be different. But having to drop to the CLI and force it so I can say, let me install stuff from anywhere. It doesn't have to be Apple fucking signed. It's really annoying. And way too much control taken away from the user. And I'm not a fan of that. One of the other things is Apple's weird way of hardware. Like, they do not have a good track record. They have a pretty good track record of keeping stuff supported for about 5 to 7 years, give or take. Um, so there's that, but then you have the repairability or lack thereof of most Macs, and that is a big thing. So, and their solution is usually, hey, go buy a new one, and it's like that creates a lot of e-ways. So there are things in Mac, in Apple's sphere, that can turn a user off. Let's talk Linux, and these are real uses and stuff. Linux, depending on your flavor and depending on, you know, the myriad of fucking religious wars over my distro is better than your distro crap, it boils down to, if you're going to use Ubuntu, we'll just use that as the base. Sometimes the newest hardware isn't supported. Example, AMD, the 5700 XT, without the newest kernel, without the newest Mesa, is a nightmare for some people because of how certain kernels and codes in Mesa are needed for those driver updates that get pulled down. And the Pro drivers are very specific from AMD for specific use. So they are not all that useful on that type of machine if you want to do things like gaming. That's when they actually say that the open source drivers are better. Optimus can be hit or miss. Some machines handle it fine, others not so much. Dual GPUs, if you have like two Radeon cards, like if you have a Radeon, I had a machine that was a Radeon 540 and it had a Vega 10 GPU. Always defaulted to the Vega 10. So you had to DRI_prime equal 1 everything if you want a dedicated GPU. Really, really annoying. The user experience, depending on your distro and interface that you choose, is not going to be the best for some people. Plasma has a habit of throwing everything at you. Gotten better, but it still throws a lot of shit at you up front. GNOME takes a lot of that away. Some people like that. Some people don't. It all depends on what you're looking for. The biggest problem you're going to find is packaging. There's a ton of different ways to install things, which is its strength and a weakness, because you have some like snaps and app images and flat packs that make it kind of irrelevant as far as the underlying distro you're using. But then you have, devs and RPMs and targzs and compile it and all these other stupid answers that are really, really annoying. So you're also not going to have full support on a lot of professional, quote unquote, grade applications that most would be accustomed to. Linux has like DaVinci Resolve, so you don't have Adobe Premiere. But we have other options like DaVinci Resolve and Lightworks, and some of those options are available. But you're not going to get a Photoshop on Linux. You have certain substitute programs, but that requires an investment of time and kind of relearning. So if Linux's biggest strength is its flexibility, but its biggest weakness in the same light can also kind of be that flexibility, in that you can make and morph the system to have goddamn pretty much whatever the fuck you want, but it makes it hard for certain applications to want to be made for that chaos and that amount of choice and customization that's available to the wider audience. I find it as a strength personally, and that's why I'm a big fan of things like snaps and app images and flat packs, because it potentially solves a lot of that problem. But on the same note, for some people it doesn't. And it all depends on what you're looking for. These are just some very high level kind of view on like some of the pros and cons on the various OSs. Not a lot of people will ideally look at every single OS and like, oh, that's that's a pro, that's con, that's a pro, that's con. And that's a problem. A lot of tech guys are zealots and almost take this shit as a religion. And instead, these are tools to be used. Instead, those guys that are zealots and treat their chosen platform as a religion are just being tools.